Good evening. It's 6 o'clock on Tuesday, September 13th, 2016. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight for the English edition of Aura News, where we bring you today's top stories translated into English every weeknight. The new school year started today for 392,000 students in all around Albania. This day was special for the 27,000 children who attended school for the first time, and many children followed the old tradition of taking flowers for their teachers. School directors said that the children had registered months ago and their position had been accommodated. The state police took measures to avoid heavy traffic problems on the main road axes and to make vehicle and school bus circulation easier. Officers were also located outside the schools. Tirana's mayor, who visited a recently inaugurated school, promised the construction of new schools and affirmed that work is being done to avoid teaching in shifts. But school did not start equally all around Albania. In Fier, students and parents protested about the damaged road the children have to walk every day to go to school. Pupils boycotted classes today and asked for the road construction so that they can go to school normally. Meanwhile, in Shkodra, there were long lines and chaos where families went to buy their books. The Minister of Interior accompanied the son of the deceased police officer who was murdered while on duty a few days ago. The Minister of Education wished a successful year to all the children and teachers, and especially to children with special needs and to teachers who work in remote areas. High schools will undergo a transformation process next year. Even as students who were not accepted to the university in the first phase were protesting outside his office, Prime Minister Edi Rama held a meeting with some of the exceptional students, where he announced the transformation as the second phase in the reform of higher education. Though he did not respond to the students outside, the Prime Minister commented on the students' protests, saying, "They protest in vain. They do not know what they are asking for, what they say. Instead of studying the whole process and applying to get what they really deserve, they shout in the street," he declared. The Prime Minister considers the system of university admissions to be successful, stating that the higher education reform has been delayed, but it is necessary. He defended the reform and the new admission system, saying it is honest, based on transparency, and does not penalize excellent students. This is the first time the best students are privileged. The best ones will be accepted to a university. The reform for higher education is functioning. The reform is functioning because there is transparency. The reforms for higher education are delayed and difficult, declared the Prime Minister, who gave a lengthy speech explaining the details of the high school reformations. The Prime Minister highlighted that the low number of complaints, 0.06% or 1% in 1,655 applications, shows that the new admission system in the universities is successful and that for the first time favors excellent students. Meanwhile, the students who were protesting outside said that the Prime Minister and Minister of Education have met with only those who were picked first and not with those who were not accepted. The students asked for a change in the system. Assembly Speaker Ilir Meta is on an official visit to the United Kingdom, where he invited British investors to invest in Albania. The Assembly Speaker held a meeting with the leader of the UK's Chamber of MPs, Mr. David Lidington, with whom he discussed strengthening relations between the two countries in the fight against terrorism and organized crime. Mr. Meta asked for increased British investments, especially in the tourism and energy fields, considering the judicial reform's effect on improving the business climate. "We will continue to strengthen our partnership in the field of security, in the fight against terrorism and organized crime, and at the same time we will extend our trade and economic relations in order to increase British investments in Albania. We hope that the judicial reform increases the trust of British investors to invest more in our country. Increased interparliamentary relations will help create a stronger basis in the investment field," declared the Assembly Speaker. The leader of the British Chamber of MPs, Mr. Lidington, gave assurance that even with the referendum to leave the European Union, Britain will cooperate with Albania in the fight against organized crime and to invest in investment relations. There is a long story of friendship and cooperation between Albania and the United Kingdom. Today, we are two NATO allies. During the meetings, we have discussed security issues. We are committed to supporting the realization of all reforms in the Balkan countries, especially Albania. We are cooperating and will continue to strengthen relations in the trade and investment fields, declared Mr. Lidington. Earlier, the Assembly Speaker held a meeting with the President of the British Group of the Inter-Parliamentary Union, Mr. Nigel Evans, with whom he discussed cooperation between the two parliaments in the fight against corruption and terrorism. The government's amnesty for pardoning unpaid obligations for business owners and drivers was presented in July and is part of the negotiations with the International Monetary Fund. The Minister of Finance declared today that he will not make this proposal to the government until the negotiations finish. I do not consider it an amnesty, and I will not suggest anything to the government until I negotiate with the International Monetary Fund. Not because this is an obligation, but because of the agreement that we have, and also because the IMF is the #1 institution for giving us healthy advice in our favor. And I can say this with conviction, declared the minister. The Minister of Finance promised that there will not be a tax increase and rejected the existence of a draft which would provide a new tax on wealth. Once again, the minister reiterated that the government will soon give good news for salaries and pensions. The IMF makes different recommendations. It has recommended different taxes since 1993, when it became an inseparable part of our economic development in Albania. When a recommendation for this tax comes, we will discuss it, but it is not in our short-term or medium-term planning. What we will do with the taxes, salaries, and pensions, we have only good news. The majority will continue with reforms, improvement, and increasing all instruments that boost consumption, declared the Minister of Finance. According to official data, taxes and customs directories have collected 19.4 billion lek more than the prediction for 8 months. A Democratic Party MP, Bulik Bashi, condemned vote buying in Dibra, calling it a criminal method. The Democrat MP said that ranking leaders of Dibra's municipality have been caught committing vote buying. The publicized cases in the media testify not only the vote buying phenomenon, but also the fact that a well-functioning scheme operates in Dibra, with funds that were put at disposal to buy votes. Some of Dibra's municipality leaders, the councillor of the city council, and brothers of the majority's candidate have been caught buying votes. These are only sporadic cases of a well-organized network that operated in every voting center. The Democratic Party is preparing a detailed report of the vote-buying cases in Dibra. We call on the prosecution to invest cases the citizens made public. It's time for a national reflection and common action. The fight against drugs, corruption, and crime has just begun, declared the Democrat MP. The Democratic Party's MP, Albana Vokshi, and the Socialist Party's MP, Olta Jashka, were invited to our program tonight, Ilvatare, where they commented on the electoral process in Dibra and on the victory of the majority's candidate. According to the Democrat MP, the vote-buying phenomenon prevailed in the elections, and according to her, this caused the loss for the opposition's candidate. Ms. Vokshi claimed that the whole process was manipulated and that Dibra's citizens were pressured to vote for the majority's candidate. Despite this, the Democratic MP declared that the Democratic Party will make a thorough analysis of the loss in order to be better prepared for the 2017 elections. Meanwhile, the Socialist MP declared that the majority's candidate was the best presented to Dibra's people and that the victory was his merit. The majority's candidate won the election in Dibra with 18,602 votes. That is 4,167 more votes than the opposition's candidate. That's all for our English edition this evening. Please join us again Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for your local news in English. My name is Mari, and on behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.
Informacioni e bën jetën më të mirë.
96.7.
Për të qenë të informuar, zgjidhni më të mirë. Radio Ora News, 96.7 MHz. ka një mënyrë të re, të thjeshtë dhe të shpejtë për të